All right, we're going to jump right in and talk about speech number 3. This is our third and last informative speech. So at the top of our page, our general purpose is still going to say to inform, and then we're going to add in this organizational pattern here at the bottom. We had an organizational pattern for speech number 2, chronological, but everyone was very consistent. Everyone was required to use chronological. In speech number 3, you get to choose that organizational pattern, so it's really important that we note the organizational pattern at the top of our page for this third speech. So each student will prepare, rehearse, and present an informative speech on a topic of his or her choice. Topics are limited to those approved by the instructor. So if you have ethical questions, organizational questions, acceptability questions, I'm happy to help, and you can just run those by me either in a discussion thread or in an email. This speech requires you to weave your own knowledge together with research material to inform the audience about your topic. So I always tell students here that you are still picking a topic, or I advise you to pick a topic that you are familiar with and interested in, but you are not necessarily an expert on, like speech 2. So here you still have some curiosity that may lead you into starting points to fill in some gaps and things like that in your own knowledge, and that's where that research comes in. So you'll already have those keywords to start with and a good frame, a good network in your head about the topic and knowing enough as a starting point. So here, this speech emphasizes oral and written citations, and I'm going to stress that over and over. Oral and written citations. You must incorporate a minimum of 3 sources. The sources must be cited verbally, in the text of your outline, and in the reference list. So 3 places these citations need to be listed. If you say 4 sources verbally, I should find those 4 sources in the text of your outline, so actually in the body, in the intro, in the conclusion if you choose, and I should be able to match the verbal citation and the body, the outline citation with the reference list, so everything should match there. And the purpose of the assignment is to demonstrate the concepts and principles of effective speech preparation and delivery as discussed in your lecture and text. So here our delivery section of the rubric is getting just a little bit bigger. Our organization section is getting just a little bit bigger. So thinking about all of those things as you're preparing your speech here. So the 5 elements of an effective introduction should be present, along with strong organization, clear outline format, and thorough signposting. Include a strong summary and closing statement to conclude the speech. A topical with complexity, recency, or primacy principle, spatial or chronological pattern is key to informative speeches. So you are choosing either topical, spatial, or chronological. A clue here, if you choose chronological, try not to do another how-to speech. Here, chronological might be more focused on the history or the timeline of something. So for instance, in fall semester, I've had like the history of Halloween because this speech falls around Halloween typically. I've had the history of bands or the history of famous people, those kinds of things for chronological. Spatial, I've had like tours of the United States from one coast to the other, places around Wyoming, places around South Dakota, all those kinds of things where you can orient spatially. I've had how a disease affects the body, like from the inside out, from head to toe. So be creative. Remember, spatial is points relative to other things in space, right? And then if we use topical, I would like you to apply one of the 3 principles. So complexity, recency, and primacy are not their own organizational pattern. They are subsets of topical organization. So you would say topical complexity, and that would be maybe you're working from the very basics to explaining an idea, a concept, or a topic, and then working to a more complex. Or vice versa, maybe you're going from complex to basic. If you're using primacy or recency, going back and figuring out what those mean in your lecture and applying that there, remembering that recency is what is heard most recently. So the 3rd main point, for instance, if you only had 3, that might be the most important point, and you wait to use recency because the last point is the most important. Primacy would be the first, so the first main point is the most important, and you're going to hit your audience with that information right off the bat there. Your outline. You must turn in a preparation outline following the guidelines presented in class. Note that you may not speak from a preparation outline, and you should prepare brief note cards for this speech. So all outlines are due in the Dropbox prior to your speaking time, and if outlines are not prepared as expected, you will not be permitted to present your speech. So please prepare accordingly. Delivery here, we're going to continue to expand, as I said before, so focusing on an extemporaneous delivery, which is conversational rather than memorized or read. So you are not like a machine gun where you've memorized in a rhythm and you're just spinning it out to your audience, but you're reacting to your audience and you just have little cues to remember how to say things. Your phrasing might not be exact. You're balancing the use of notes with your practicing from beforehand before delivering your speech. Connect with your audience through eye contact and avoid distracting vocal or physical behaviors, and work to include the elements of physical and vocal delivery covered in the text and lecture to most effectively convey your message. Time limit here, again, we've talked about how important time limits are. So you will have 3.5 to 6 minutes to present speech 3. You'll be penalized 5 points if you are over or under the time limit, and once you hit 6 minutes, you will have to stop speaking, which may affect your grade if you have not concluded through the entire speech. For instance, if you're still on the body of the speech, you'd lose body points and conclusion points. Most typically, students are only losing conclusion points and are just a little bit shy of that time limit there. So a visual aid is required for speech number 3. Visual aids should be simple in nature and easy to set up and take down in front of a webcam. Digital aids are also an option. PowerPoint, Prezi, that share screen function in Zoom that most of you have seen your group members already use. So lecture, be focused on that visual aid lecture. Start to prepare a visual aid to couple with your speech 3 assignment. This is a 100-point assignment, and you will critique a peer during our online session. There's also an example here for our speech 3, so you can go over that. And then we have our rubric here as well, okay? And this is an APA format, guys, so you can kind of see how APA format works. So for instance here, I have 5 sources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should be able to find all 5 of those sources in this example speech, and I should hear all 5 of those sources as they are mentioned in the outline here. Yeah? You guys also might start to have other levels of subpoints. So noticing that the first level that we've been using is capital Roman numeral, then you indent to capital letters. And if you indent even further, remembering you always just have to have 2 divisions. There always has to be at least a 1 and a 2. And we are noting this level of subpoints, the second level, with a 1 and a 2. All right. As always, guys, email me with any questions. I'm happy to help you with organization, citation format, all of those things. Just stay a little bit ahead, and I will talk to you all soon.